After years of the word remake meaning widely different things depending on the project, I mean, especially in a post-Final Fantasy VII Remake world, calling this version of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined feels intentional. It feels softer, it's certainly less confrontational, and it feels less like it's trying to replace something and more like trying to welcome new players in. And honestly, I really think it fits that vibe well. Doesn't feel like a radical reinterpretation of a classic. It doesn't feel like a nostalgia-driven, like, museum piece either. It feels like a modern Dragon Quest game built on a obvious older foundation. The PlayStation 1 bones are there in structure and philosophy, but the presentation and accessibility feels entirely at home in 2026. And what makes this perspective for me is simple. I've never played the original PlayStation 1 version. I haven't touched the 3DS version, so I'm coming into this reimagined version rather, with zero bias, no expectations, other than just the next stop in my Dragon Quest journey. This is the 7th game I've played, and it was, yeah, we'll get there. But it overall really felt natural alongside the other games that I've played so far. Didn't feel dated, didn't feel clunky, and I never felt like I was missing some piece of legacy context that some longtime fans would have. It just felt like another Dragon Quest, and that's both its greatest strength and also maybe its greatest limitation. So before we discuss any of this game more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because almost 90% of the people that watch my channel on the regular are not subscribed. And leave your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to know, have you played the original game? Have you played the remake? Have you finished it? Are you playing it now? Are you interested in it? I'd be, interested and curious to know your thoughts as well, because it was let's just talk about the game now. It's going to be some mild spoilers along the way, but this review is kind of geared towards my thoughts overall, and if you haven't played the game as well, should you play it? Let's go. So let's just quickly set up the story and give you an overview of what this game actually is about. So you start on a small island called Pilchard Bay, and as far as anybody knows, that's the entire world. There's nothing else out there, just vast oceans. But after exploring the island with you and your friend Kiefer and then Maribel, you and your friends find these mysterious stone tablets, and they transport you into the past. And each tablet sends you to a different island that, for whatever reason, no longer exists in the present. You solve whatever crisis happened back then, and then you return to your own time, and then that island is restored on the world map. So over the course of the game, you are literally rebuilding the world piece by piece. So in a nutshell, that's the hook of the game. Less about stopping some big evil right away, and more about uncovering what happened to this broken world and slowly bringing it back. On paper, it's one of the most ambitious narrative frameworks in the series, especially considering its place in the series, and at first, it's genuinely fantastic. There's a real sense of mystery in uncovering new fragments of the world. Every completed tablet feels like unlocking a new chapter of a forgotten history, obviously because the islands have all disappeared for some reason or another, and you're bringing them back. The time travel mechanic gives each location weight because your actions actually reshape the present. It's clever, and it's easy to see why this concept would have felt really bold when this game was released. But over time, that structure starts to reveal its trade-offs. The storytelling is episodic. Each island functions like its own self-contained vignette. You show up, you meet new characters, you resolve a conflict, restore the timeline, restore the island, and move on. And initially, that format feels charming and, yes, even experimental compared to previous entries in the series. But as the hours stack up, I found myself wanting something deeper and maybe more consistent, especially from the main party. I didn't really connect with the smaller island stories, to be honest with you. I understand what the game was doing, and I respect the idea of being like the peacekeepers of the world who quietly repair these forgotten islands or these islands that have disappeared, but emotionally, it just didn't stick with me. What I wanted was more focus on the heroes themselves, their thoughts, their evolution, and their struggles as a group. Yes, party chat is there and very present, but I just feel like it really didn't paint enough of a picture for me. Instead, this narrative prioritizes the world over the characters inhabiting it. That restraint isn't necessarily a flaw. In fact, I can see how this would have been fascinating in terms of a narrative experiment in the series, but it's also hard not to compare it to something more modern like Dragon Quest XI, which benefits from decades of series evolution and leans heavily into character arcs. So 7 feels intentionally understated. It's more subtle, it's a lot more quiet, and maybe just sometimes too subtle. But there are some moments that land. At some stage in your journey early on, one of your friends, Kiefer, departs. It feels abrupt, and I don't know, I just didn't understand it. I can feel like if you played the original PlayStation 1 version, it would have been very sudden, I suppose. But however, in this version, he does return. I suppose it's more of like a fan nod to have him come back, and it just made everything feel a little bit more impactful, being able to close that loop. Some of those scenes worked for me because they were centered around the party, but those moments are spaced far apart. And by the time I reached the credits, I didn't really dislike the structure, but I just felt ready for it to end. Now, mechanically, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined feels exactly how you'd expect a Dragon Quest game to feel. Turn-based combat is clean and reliable, buffing your party, lowering enemy defenses, stacking attack boosts, and going all in. It's that comfort food formula that the series has refined, and basically where I've found myself really just at home over the last few months in my Dragon Quest journey. Now, my problem with this game isn't how it plays, it's how I didn't really feel much resistance at all. Even on the easy difficulty, which is way too easy, medium difficulty, which was kind of easy, and then hard difficulty, which is, I don't know, it's still okay. I just didn't feel like I was getting enough out of it. Grinding also felt pretty much non-existent. Across my entire playthrough, I only really grinded for like an hour and a half, and even that wasn't strictly necessary. One late game boss gave me some trouble, but it wasn't even the final encounter of all things. For a game of this length, that lack of tension really stood out. The job system here is interesting and flexible, especially with the ability to work on multiple vocations at once with this new moonlighting system. It's really cool. There's clearly depth there for players who want to experiment. However, because the difficulty is so forgiving, I never really felt compelled to dig into that depth. Once I established comfortable roles for my party, I just stuck with them and never looked back. That accessibility makes this an easy recommendation for newcomers, however. I genuinely think that somebody brand new to JRPGs could jump into this and have a really great time. But for some more experienced players, maybe like myself or you, for example, especially somebody who's familiar with Dragon Quest's rhythms, it can feel like you're moving through the game without ever truly earning your victories. Now, restoring the world piece by piece is undeniably satisfying. There's something compelling about finding new fragments, completing new tablets, and watching new islands rise from nothing. The loop itself is strong, constantly gives you a reason to keep going because there's always another piece waiting to be discovered. But that same structure also creates a strange illusion of scale. You visit each island twice, once in the past to fix the problem, and again in the present to witness the outcome. It's clever and reinforces the time travel mechanic beautifully, I'd say. And at the same time, it means you're revisiting locations often, retracing steps, and repeating similar gameplay rhythms over and over. Because of that, the game does feel bigger than it is. It feels sprawling, but when you really look at it, the individual spaces are fairly contained. The sense of scale comes from repetition and structure rather than raw geographic size. So depending on your tolerance for backtracking, this will either enhance the experience or slowly wear on you. For me, I can certainly appreciate the philosophy behind it, but I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't ready for it to end by the time I hit the credits. Now, if there's one area where Dragon Quest VII does feel both charming and frustrating at the same time, it's the party itself. Kiefer is a easy standout for me. He has that classic Dragon Quest sidekick energy. He's adventurous, reckless, and genuinely very likable. His early presence adds a lot of personality to the group, and when he leaves, it's sudden and awkward, honestly. There's an emptiness there afterwards, and I know in the original game, it handled his story where he's just was done. He didn't come back to the party at all. And having him return in this version gives that departure more of an emotional payoff. Like I said earlier, it kind of closes that gap. It's one of the few moments where the narrative truly centers around the main cast in a really meaningful way. I also really enjoyed Sir Mervyn. He's a genuine highlight for me. The concept of this ancient warrior being sealed away in a stone is pure Dragon Quest fantasy, and his presence adds this sense of myth and legacy to the party in this Renaissance Knights of the Round kind of vibe. It's really cool, and he feels really grounded and wise, and there's a real sincerity to him that works well within the understated tone of the game. And Ruff as well, I loved him. It's got that classic mascot party member kind of feel. He adds levity and softness to the group without overstaying his welcome. Aisha, on the other hand, never fully clicked for me. She's fine. She functions, she works well for battles, but never really rose above that level for me in terms of feeling attached to the character. And then there's Maribel. easily my most unlikable character in the entirety of Dragon Quest, at least so far anyway. Oh my goodness, I couldn't stand her. Her constant negativity and degrading comments toward the party really just wore on me over time. I understand that she's meant to bring friction and personality, and maybe for some players that sharpness kind of reads as humor. For me, it just made her difficult to enjoy. That said, she does fit the tone of the game. She complements the dynamic, even if she isn't somebody that I personally gravitated towards. Overall, the cast works, and voice acting adds a tremendous amount of charm, and it's one of the biggest advantages of this reimagined version. The performances inject life into moments that maybe otherwise feel flat. It enhances that Dragon Quest warmth without sacrificing the series' identity. But emotionally, I still wanted more. The characters really feel intentionally understated. There aren't many massive gut punch moments or sweeping character arcs. I mean, outside of Kiefer's storyline, I rarely felt that sense of transformation within the party. They serve the world more than they evolve within it. And that's kind of Dragon Quest VII in a nutshell. Now hang on, before we get any further, I want to take a moment and say thank you to my Patreon supporters who not only do they get this video early, but also have their name appear in the credits and also are able to chip in on ideas and see things behind the scenes and submit their thoughts and comments as well. Sometimes do make it into the videos when they allow for it, aside from when I'm doing massive review videos such as this one. So thank you to these supporters here. If you guys want to join and support the channel in a more meaningful way, I would love to have you over there. More Dragon Quest VII right now. Now, in my opinion, where this reimagined version truly shines is the presentation. The art direction here walks a careful line between honoring Akira Toriyama's iconic designs and giving them new life. It doesn't feel retro, but it also doesn't feel like it's abandoning its roots either. It feels timeless in a way. There's something almost diorama-like about the environments, really vibrant, colorful, and meticulously constructed. From the opening scene to the final credits, it really was a visual treat. And the orchestral soundtrack is another highlight. Hearing these compositions fully realized with live instrumentation adds so much emotional weight, even in the moments where the story itself feels restrained. Dragon Quest music has always had a real distinct identity, and this version reinforces that beautifully. There's comfort in it, there's familiarity, it elevates scenes that might otherwise just feel simple. Now, looking at Dragon Quest VII in 2026 is interesting because it exists in a very different RPG landscape than it originally did when it was first released. Modern JRPGs now lean towards cinematic spectacle, dramatic twists, and large-scale character arcs. VII does not chase that at all. It's quiet, it's restrained, and I would almost say it's cozy in its storytelling approach. On paper, the stakes are enormous. You're rebuilding a fractured world, but the presentation keeps everything intimate and grounded. And there's something kind of refreshing about that. Not every JRPG needs to be bombastic and epic. There is value in going smaller, in focusing on restoration rather than destruction, and telling contained stories instead of universe-shattering ones. But there is a thin line between restraint and underwhelming. For me, the cozy nature of the storytelling was both a strength and a flaw. I appreciated the slower pace and the grounded tone for sure, but I also found myself emotionally detached from much of what was happening. I was restoring the world, but I wasn't always invested in the people living in it. And as a remake entering 2026, its role feels clear. It's reintroducing older Dragon Quest design philosophy to a new generation. It's bridging the gap between classic and modern sensibilities, and in that sense, it succeeds really well. Would a new player have the patience for the original PlayStation 1 version now? Probably not. But this version smooths enough edges and increases accessibility to make it genuinely approachable. And in some ways, it reminds me of like Wind Waker's island hopping structure, but in a more contained, almost minimalist form. It feels crafted around the limitations and strengths of the original hardware, and that's not a criticism at all, it's just an observation. It doesn't try to inflate itself into something that it's not. It preserves its structure while refining that presentation. Compared to modern cinematic RPGs, yes, it absolutely does feel restrained, but restraint is inherently not a weakness. The issue isn't that it's subtle, it's that I personally didn't connect as deeply with the writing as I wanted to. What Dragon Quest VII Reimagined preserves, though, is something modern RPGs sometimes lose. The willingness to be small, the willingness to let quiet moments breathe, and the understanding that not every adventure needs to constantly escalate. So as a Dragon Quest fan who hasn't played the original PlayStation 1 version, would I recommend this? Yes, absolutely. If you haven't played any Dragon Quest games before, yes, you should play this. Have you played many RPGs or JRPGs? If the answer is no, then you can start with this. This is a really fun and accessible title that, of course, isn't without its shortcomings. However, the presentation overall makes it really inviting, and the episodic structure, well, not my favorite, gives it a really unique identity within the series. Is it underrated? For me, no, not really. I probably would rank it in my top 5 Dragon Quest games so far, but likely near the bottom of that top 5. I enjoyed it, I appreciated it, but it really didn't blow me away the same way that some of the other entries have. Did it change how I view the series? Yes, in a positive way. I mean, the more Dragon Quest games I play, the more I understand everything. I understand why it values charm over spectacle and why it prioritizes warmth over shock. And now I absolutely understand why this entry is divisive. The original's pacing and difficulty likely amplified that division. This reimagined version smooths many of these edges out. I genuinely believe that everybody should try this version at least once, even if it doesn't end up being your favorite game, and that's okay. Not every single game we play in 2026 is going to be the second coming. That's totally fine. So for me, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is a fascinating experiment, a cozy world-first adventure that sometimes forgets to let its heroes shine. A beautiful remake for sure that makes an older game accessible again. It didn't become my favorite, but I'm certainly glad I experienced it. And in this ongoing journey through the Dragon Quest series, that's more than enough for me. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you haven't played this game, I've tried to not really give much away, but just be general in terms of thoughts. And yeah, obviously I can say I double dipped. I got the collector's edition for the Switch. I got the steelbook there, then the ship in a bottle behind me there, and the PlayStation 5 version as well, because I don't know, I'm really enjoying my time with Dragon Quest, as you can tell, and I would recommend that you play this game, even if it does have some shortcomings, and that's okay. Again, not every game we're going to play is going to be the best thing ever, and we shouldn't expect that. This game is fun, memorable, and yeah, I think you would really enjoy your time with it if you like turn-based JRPGs. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again on another video next week. Bye-bye.